In the annals of history, certain figures emerge whose courage and determination echo across centuries, leaving an indelible mark on the pages of time. Boudica, the warrior queen of ancient Britain, is one such remarkable individual. Her story is one of defiance, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of freedom in the face of oppression. Born in the 1st century AD, Boudica became an enduring symbol of resistance against the Roman Empire, captivating the imaginations of generations and standing as a testament to the power of human spirit. Boudica lived during the 1st century, a time when the Roman Empire's expansionist ambitions knew no bounds. Born into the Iceni tribe, which inhabited the eastern coast of Britain, Boudica grew up in an environment that valued honour, independence, and courage. Little did she know that her destiny would propel her into the heart of a conflict that would transform her into a symbol of resistance against tyranny. This is her story. Before Rome's invasion of Britain, the island was the edge of the known world, a land of great mystery. Julius Caesar would go on an audacious campaign to this fabled land in the year 55 BC, and although no conquests were made in Britain, he established the Roman client kingdoms, native tribes which chose to align themselves with the Roman Empire. Diplomatic and trading links developed further over the next century, and Roman legions did not return to Britain for another 97 years. However, by the mid-1st century, the Romans would land on the English shores with their legions, hell-bent on conquest, resulting in the Roman conquest of Britain. Boudica lived during the Roman occupation of Britain. She was born in around the year 25 AD. Nothing is known of her upbringing, however. It is assumed she was born into a noble family. In the year 48 AD, she would marry a king of the British Celtic tribe called the Iceni, who inhabited what is now East Anglia. As an ally of Rome, the Iceni were able to remain nominally independent. The catalyst for Boudica's rise to prominence was a treacherous act perpetrated by the Romans after the death of her husband. Instead of honouring the alliance between Rome and the Iceni, the Romans disregarded their agreements and subjected Boudica to humiliation and brutality. The will of Boudica's husband was ignored, and the Romans moved in, quickly conquering the kingdom. To make matters worse, Roman moneylenders called in the debts which Prasutagus owed during his lifetime. To collect the debts, the Romans confiscated the lands and property of the Iceni and treated their nobles like slaves. When Boudica protested, Governor Suetonius had her flogged and her 2 daughters defiled in public. The Roman historian Tacitus reports in his annals that Prasutagus, the late king of the Icenians, by his will left the kingdom to his 2 daughters and the emperor in equal shares, conceiving by that stroke of policy that he should provide at once for the tranquility of his kingdom and family. The event was otherwise. His dominions were ravaged by the centurions, his effects were seized as lawful plunder, his wife Boudica was disgraced with cruel stripes, her daughters were ravished, the relations of the late king were reduced to slavery. This injustice served as the spark that ignited the flames of rebellion within Boudica's heart. Fueled by righteous anger and a fierce determination to protect her people, she rallied the tribes of Britain under her banner and embarked on a campaign against the oppressive Roman forces. The Roman historian Cassius Dio wrote that Boudica gave great speeches, reminding her allies about how much better life was before Roman occupation, emphasizing the impossibility of true prosperity amidst slavery. They reflected on their past, ruefully acknowledging that their wealth held no value when overshadowed by the chains of bondage. She held herself accountable for not resisting the Roman intrusion, as her ancestors had bravely done during Julius Caesar's conquest. Boudica would rally her army and called upon the Icenic war goddess Andrasta to aid her army, and she would swiftly move into Roman territory. Cassius described Boudica as very tall. Her eyes seemed to stab you. Her voice was harsh and loud. Her thick reddish-brown hair flung down below her waist. She always wore a great golden torque around her neck, and a flowing tartan cloak, fastened with a brooch. Boudica and her fellow Britons set their sights on Colchester, the symbolic heart of Roman authority. Within its walls, a temple venerating Emperor Claudius stood tall. With minimal resistance, they obliterated the city, leaving it in ruins. Meanwhile, the Roman governor Suetonius was elsewhere, unaware of Colchester's fate. Upon learning of the devastating news, he hurried to London. Faced with a mounting rebellion, he left London, weakly fortified, fearing a widespread uprising. Exploiting this vulnerability, the Britons seized both London and later St. Albans in their ruthless onslaught. They mercilessly slaughtered over 80,000 people across these three cities, sparing no one in their path. Cassius Dio describes the carnage. A terrible disaster occurred in Britain. 2 cities were sacked, 80,000 of the Romans and their allies perished, and the island was lost to Rome. Moreover, all this ruin was brought upon the Romans by a woman, a fact which in itself caused them the greatest shame. But the person who was chiefly instrumental in rousing the natives and persuading them to fight the Romans, the person who was thought worthy to be their leader and who directed the conduct of their entire war, was Boudica. While the Britons continued their destruction, Suetonius regrouped his forces. Advancing northward, Boudica led her growing army in pursuit of Suetonius's forces. Along their path, her troops executed a successful ambush on a Roman column, traversing through a narrow route. The decisive clash between the two armies unfolded in an open battle, potentially occurring somewhere along Watling Street. Despite the Britons' numerical advantage, the Romans possessed superior tactics, training, discipline, and weaponry. In the initial assault, a barrage of Roman javelins halted the first wave of Britons. When the second wave approached, the Romans stood resolute, sheltered behind their shield wall, expertly thrusting their short swords and repelling the Britons' attack. The Romans were also skilled at open combat and had better equipment and discipline. According to the Roman historian Tacitus, Boudica had her daughters beside her during the battle, encouraging her troops with an impassioned speech from her chariot. In the end, despite their vastly superior numbers, the Britons were unable to break the Roman lines. The confined battleground became a killing ground. The Roman troops butchered the rebel force with grim efficiency. It is reported that as many as 80,000 Britons fell, whereas less as 400 Romans fell, although this number is thought to have been greatly exaggerated. After the battle, Boudica is said by Tacitus to have poisoned herself, although Cassius Dio says Boudica fell ill after the battle and was given a lavish burial. While the defeat of Boudica consolidated Roman rule in southern Britain, her legacy teaches us that the pursuit of justice, freedom, and dignity is a noble endeavour, one that requires unwavering determination and unyielding resolve. Boudica's name echoes through the corridors of history, reminding us of the power of one's individual bravery to shape the course of nations and inspire the world. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe and share, and I'll see you all soon for another History Profile.